the KMNN studios, this is the Kids Morning News Network. It's August 23rd, 2024, the 236th day of the year. Welcome to the Kids Morning News Network podcast. I'm Alex in the KMNN studio. A 10-year-old girl in Wales named Tegan recently went for a stroll on the beach with her mom looking for fossils. They found something a bit bigger. 5 huge holes that a local museum says are probably dinosaur footprints. Paleontologists think they were left behind more than 200 million years ago by a dino called a camelotia. It didn't look like a camel. It was about 10 feet tall with a long neck. It spent a lot of time walking on 2 legs, but went down on all 4s when it was grazing for food. These days, Wales, which is part of the United Kingdom, is next to the sea and tends to be rainy and cool. But 200 million years ago, it was hot and dry and a long way from the water. Flash floods came through when it rained. And then when a dinosaur walked through the soft, wet sand, it left a big footprint. Hot sun helped harden the print before the wind could blow it away, and then it filled up with different sand called sediment. Now that sediment in Tegan's prints has been washed away, leaving the footprints behind, frozen in the red rock on what used to be a sandy red desert and is now the shoreline. Today, August 23rd, we celebrate the founding of the 14th state of the United States of America, the first one to be formed after the Revolutionary War. Happy birthday, all you residents of Franklin. Did I say Franklin? I did. Have you ever heard of a state called Franklin? You probably haven't. Yes, it was carved out of what is now Tennessee in 1784, what was back then North Carolina. But no, it never quite became a state. It started when North Carolina offered the land to the new United States Congress to help pay for all the money the government borrowed to pay for the Revolutionary War. Congress didn't really want it though, and North Carolina took it back. But by then, the mountain men and renegades in the territory decided they actually liked the idea of being a different state. So they re-declared themselves to be a new state. They seceded, basically. They broke away from North Carolina. At first, they called their proposed state Frankland. I'm not sure who Frank was, but changed it to Franklin after Benjamin Franklin. Really, they wanted him to support their idea of being a new state. So then the issue went back to Congress. The other states had to vote on whether or not to let Franklin into the Union. And they didn't go for it. It probably didn't help that even Benjamin Franklin wouldn't give them his support. Eventually, North Carolina sent troops in to reclaim the territory it wasn't even sure it wanted, and by 1789, Franklin was over once and for all. At which point, North Carolina changed its mind again and decided it didn't really want what used to be Franklin after all, and gave it back to the federal government. And eventually, it became part of Tennessee. You know, you think of the United States as this big thing that's been around forever, but it hasn't. And it has had a lot of twists and turns along the way. Kind of like people do when they're growing up. Franklin, the state where everyone changes their mind over and over again.
Ha ha ha!
It's riddle time. Wednesday's riddle was, how much dirt is in a hole that's 2 feet by 3 feet? The answer, and some of you are saying the answer, of course, is none, because it's a hole. That one was kind of a trick riddle. Today's riddle is, I can be cracked, made, told, and played. What am I? I'll say that again. I can be cracked, made, told, and played. What am I? I'll give you the answer on Monday, but you've got to make sure to follow or subscribe to the Kids Morning News Network so you don't miss it. If you were listening last week, you know that scientists believe they've found water, lots of it, deep below the surface of Mars. If future explorers can tap into it, that water would be a priceless boost to any Mars colony. But an even bigger question is, could that water have life in it? To answer that question, without digging 9 miles below the surface of Mars, scientists are looking at life that lives deep under the surface of our own planet. And yes, they have found life deep underground on Earth, even in between layers of solid rock. It's called the deep biosphere. And it's not like there are bunnies or fish or long-lost dinosaurs living deep underground. These are mostly single-celled organisms like bacteria. They're creatures that are just one cell, instead of the, 40 trillion or so cells that make up a human. But there are a lot of these little creatures. Some scientists say that about 70% of these certain kind of single-cell organisms live underground. There may be more of these cells deep in the rocks of Earth than there are stars in the sky. And these little cells are strong. They may have been some of the first life forms on Earth, and they're still around. So will we find them on Mars? Well, if we do, they'll probably be buried even deeper than they are on Earth. So we'll have to get busy mining Mars. If you're out west and not right on the coast out west, today you might notice a bit of wind and rain. Lots of rain in the Pacific Northwest especially. Nevada and Texas will be dry, hot, and windy. Looks dry across the Midwest and in the East, except for Florida, which is also going to get some rain today. Well, that's the show. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great weekend. Please make sure you follow or subscribe to the Kids Morning News Network on your podcast app, podcast player, or your smart device so you don't miss any episodes. I'll be back on Monday, and I hope you are too. From the KMNN Newsroom, this is Alex signing off.